did you go to school?
And here's your...
What do you think of what's going on right now, mate?
These evil little invisible parasites.
Satan-worshipping Freemason moron.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
We're not run by factions.
Get the fuck out of camera!
There are much more powerful international forces in play.
Is this pink eye? Is this what pink eye is? I don't fucking know what's happening.
Please go outside and look at the moon quickly.
It's been crazy, guys, but guess what? It's how it is, mate.
Mate, because I want to do you slowly.
But I ain't spending any time on it.
Welcome to another Jackless episode of the Conditional Release program, but I am not on my own today. I'm here with Dave, who is going to give us a cooker update because he actually tracks these people, which I admittedly don't really do so much anymore. So how's it going, Dave?
Oh, all right. I'm not tracking very well at the moment. It's all blurring into fuggy, humid Christmas blobbiness.
It's a bit
Christmas
like that.
Parties.
Yes, it's a bit like that. But look, we're just going to have a bit of a sort of casual fireside chat about the state of affairs and what the fuck is going on. As usual, this episode is brought to you by the fine folks at CBCo, who still send me free beer, although I have run out, which is very upsetting. I'm drinking competitors' beer, but I might even just put through an order because it is really very good. CRP10 still works. Just do it. It's good beer. I mean, you're going to drink beer, so you may as well fucking buy it. So outside of that, obviously join the Patreon, blah, blah, blah. But in lieu of all those things, let's get down to what the fuck is going on in Port Hedland and why is Dave O'Neig's flying there?
Well, it's happened in Port Hedland. There was a motion passed to write to all councils about the evils of the mRNA vaccines to have motions passed across Australia calling for their banning and a number of other things, you know, in great detail that you can all read about on their website that encourages others to go out and do it. So
basically being pests at this point.
Yeah. But it really went back to, I mean, it hit the news in a big way in that Councillor Adrian McRae, who in WA you can initiate an additional, I don't think it's an emergency meeting and maybe an extraordinary council meeting by getting a petition signed by 5% of your constituency. So
yeah, it's a special council meeting, I think, on the 11th of October 2024. That's what I've sort of Googled up. And it's quite a lot of, you know, excellent cook nonsense about the whole DNA contamination thing, which is meaningless, and all the rest. But yeah, it looks like they did have to request a special meeting. It's a serious issue. They've uncovered serious issues related to the COVID-19 vaccinations because they've been doing research. That's what it says here. That's pretty important. Fine. I mean, this is dumb.
And the vote passed 5-2.
Oh,
and
so the council's fucked in the head.
Yeah, and almost instantly the cookosphere reacted with triumph, saying that a globally significant event had just taken place in shitty old Port Hedland.
Well, you know they're going to be saying that in Australia the government has banned mRNA shots on shit like InfoWars or, you know, fucking Stu Peters will be saying it. People who have the ability to either pretend they know nothing about our federal government system or genuinely just know nothing about our government system will happily take this out of context and inflate the reality. This, I must say, this fucking special meeting PDF reads a lot like the statement of claim, except it's just a lot shorter in the McCann class action. It's just a whole bunch of nonsense, whole bunch of sort of pasted bullshit. Yeah, just a gish gallop of fucking nonsense. Who cares? But I believe they have run afoul of the Premier the Premier Rog Cook, who said that they should stick to knitting, basically dismissing that their whole special meeting and vote was, well, you know, quite useless. The Premier, Rog Cook in Western Australia, said the Port Hedland Council had gone off the rails and they should stick to knitting, which I think is they probably have got off the rails if they're voting for this bullshit.
Yeah, and all this took place, and 2 days later McRae was part of an Australian delegation that was flown over to the BRICS meeting
Yes,
in
the
Moscow.
R in BRICS is Russia. Yep, that's right.
And it was on Sputnik TV, of course, and it was the same. Same list of usual suspects from here that.
Oh, totally. But McRae is a Putin simp. He's made the news for that.
And the website was ready to go with, and that was a schmick operation in terms of what to do in your area about getting your council to do the same thing, having received the letter from Port Hedland.
Yeah, okay.
And so that process is beginning to wind itself out. And I suspect will keep them busy and in their attempt to rewrite the history of the pandemic for months and months. So far, I think Port Macquarie has enough cooked councillors on it to have had one get a motion put before council coming up this week. And I think the two councils have passed motions, being Ceduna and West Tamar in Launceston.
Okay.
And it's been rejected by others. They sort of divided your options as per how cooked your council was. So if you already had a good number of cookers on board, elected to council or even running council, all you had to do was support their efforts. But if there were none or some who were less adamant than the ones who have made themselves known, there was the option of, depending on which state you were in, applying to address council about it. And we saw a good old chemist botherer, Rosemary Marshall, doing that in the Northern Beaches the other week. Sort of
on the beaches. No one's going to like that.
Yeah, well, no motion or vote resulted out of that, but she got her 2 bobs worth in. And it's, as I said, it's coming up in Port Macquarie. There's another council in WA that have achieved the 5% of the vote of the constituency petition. So they've got to have an emergency meeting and discuss it now. I'm just not remembering the name of it. And it's just going to go on for months with what I reckon is a somewhat successful. If you listen to people like Ben Fordham who sort of discuss it as if it's a valid thing to say they have a point on. Yeah. It's chipping away at rewriting the record books.
Oh, totally. And also just exploiting the fact that this is where his audience is heading toward and they're trying to capture that.
And I always thought so much of the future of cookerdom here, as in all of the free world, depended on what happened with the US election, which really was a vote on whether 2016 was a one-off or this is now a new sort of era in global politics, and they went the latter.
Yeah.
So
this
is going to become a thing.
I really didn't think that would be the case. I mean, so international dumb flavour of this. The Gateway Pundit, which is a shitty right-wing fuckhead page that will happily post quite serious articles about things like QAnon. The headline for the event that happened in Port Hedland, which was the Great Debate, which was presented and sponsored by Adrian McRae's business, GBTK. The headline is, Australian medical icon breaks down in tears during debate with government officials over COVID-19 vaccine catastrophe. Quote, the most uncontrolled experimentation ever on humankind. Now, this is saying it was a debate with government officials. Were there any government officials at this debate?
It was never a debate from the start. It was a echo chamber. Inside the Perth Convention and Exhibition Centre.
And is Bright Hope an Australian medical icon? So that's none for two on that one. And I also have here, back on the council thing, talking about the West Tamar Council in Tasmania and the Ceduna Council in South Australia. The Daily Mail headline is, Australian Council takes a dramatic stand against COVID vaccines and the TGA advice, citing conspiracy theory. And then it goes on to basically cheerlead for this.
Yeah, you get the clickbait and the validation, and it's just happening more and more, especially around, news.com and the Daily Mail. It's become a formula, like the died suddenly.
The Daily Mail are fucking terrible. Just absolutely fucking pathetic. But I mean, what can you do in that regard, right? Like,
No, it's just where we're
yeah.
at.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty much. But yeah, like when it comes to the Port Hedland thing, yes, they're trying to get everyone to do this ridiculous mRNA blah blah thing. But what happened at this great debate? What was going on there? I remember seeing there was a picture of her Neegs flying over there, and I thought, you can't afford a flight. What's going on here?
Yeah, it was like a lot of them were flown in for the occasion, and Hoodie and Rebecca Barnett had the Free Media Summit lined up in Adelaide the next day. But really, it was, as someone pointed out somewhere, a bunch of East Coasters being flown in, and they said specifically to respond to Roger Cook knitting sledge. And, you know, it had all the, you could see the tickets as they were being sold, and you know, they probably filled a quarter of the exhibition centre. They closed half of it off with a big curtain.
Yeah,
to make it look,
Trump rallies have done that as well, yeah.
They probably
Joke's on us, though.
got
Trump
away
still
with-
won.
That's right, yeah.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, like, still, it would have been a big place to fill.
Massive, yeah. It didn't look too bad. I mean, it was half full. It was just, you knew it was just cookers. It went for 4.5 hours, a bit like a Trump thing too, probably.
Yeah. They do
just-
seem to like long things. I'd be bringing a fucking hip flask to that because I cannot handle it. Just too long. Too fucking long. Well, even Syrian Girl was mentioning it, which is interesting because, of course, Syrian Girl is quite heavily aligned with the Cossack.
Yes.
So it's interesting to wonder why she's getting involved in this. The Cossack is definitely talking about this, but the reality of it is, as we were discussing earlier, who's financing it? We know who is financing this, or at least we know from the poster, which is GBTK, which is Adrian McRae's business in Port Hedland.
Just earth moving and mining.
Yeah,
mining side, mainly earth moving around mining. Yeah.
Pilbara thing, yeah, maintenance, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's an interesting one, but it looks like he did. You know, he paid for a whole bunch of shit cunts to go over there and have a chat. And the thing that I find almost, you know, sort of interesting about that, not really, it's just that usually these things are really they're quite pathetic, and they won't fly people in. They'll just have a Zoom thing. I've been to the Mega Freedom in Coffs Harbour, which had a stunning fucking lineup. But of course, it wasn't really a lineup. The only person who turned up that I could see in person was Billy Bay, who was just going to anything he could at that point. But yeah, they just had a projector screen and this old lady in a little $500 Acer laptop connected to it and a Zoom account. Like, that was basically it. So yeah, you know, the fact they're flying people over and getting involved in it, it's an interesting thing.
There was
they
a
clearly
budget
haven't let go of the
attached,
vaccine.
for sure.
Oh, there's money in it. If you look at pictures from the event, it wasn't cheap. But it looks like the person who spent money was Adrian McRae himself. It just seems like he's pretty cashed up. There's this whole idea of, like, the fight between the little guy and the big machine, but it looks like he might not be as much of a little guy as they might want to make him out to be. But, you know, they're really not dropping the idea that the vaccines are blah, blah, evil, blah, blah, blah. We've just seen the COVID class action, which is still judgment's reserved and it hasn't been adjudicated and decided on, blah, blah, blah. But, like, from the hearing the other day, it's not looking fucking good. And
really.
It wasn't great. Did you watch some of it?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, the
And
barrister
really
was
just-
getting roasted. Just roasted. I've never seen anything like that. I've only seen a few things. I've been to court a few times as a visitor, not a participant. And I've watched several anti-vax things online, and I've never seen anything quite as fucked in the head as that was. That was insane. But yeah, they're not going to give this up. They're just not going to give it up. You know, it's just bizarre. I guess this is a part of their identity now. This is their fight, good versus evil. You know, this is all they sort of know or care about.
Well, yeah, they dedicated their lives to it, made a lot of friends, and part of it was that they expect either everyone to suddenly wake up and grovel to them, or
so you were right all along.
Nuremberg 2.0.
Yeah,
where they get their revenge
pretty much
in a glorious kind of end of movie moment, where really the politics just grinds on, as does They haven't.
Yeah.
They haven't worked out the drudgery yet. They're still waiting for the movie ending.
Yes, that's pretty much it. And they sort of dreamed of this for a long time. At the same time, as you say, like it is the friends they made along the way. And I mean, they're going to keep on doing things and blah, blah, blah. But the events they do really are just to keep themselves sane, I think, to keep themselves happy. And we've had a few of those recently. We had do we have a Freedom Festival of some variety?
This weekend in the Edamogga pub,
Okay.
there was that. There was...
Warm day, apparently.
Yeah, it's warm everywhere inland at the moment. Can't get away.
Yeah.
Except at the My Place. The My Place camp out where dropped 42 mil on them on the first night and all of the speeches. Yeah, they were standing in puddles essentially. Wiped
42 millimeters is a lot.
Wiped out the Crystal Market.
Fuck, where was that?
And somewhere out of Echuca. Sorry to Victorian people who know exactly where it was. Some Watiki resort or on the river, looked pretty nice as a campground goes, but full of My Place people, probably not. Bergie launched Our Place.
Yeah, okay. The more secret My Place?
Yeah, where you actually step away into the private. And there's been a bit of chatter in the groups there about how it doesn't really matter if you're not ready to yet. Everything's still cool. So,
okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's for everyone or whether there will be... I mean, Soz and Sandy covered it in Tinfoil Tales a couple of weeks back. But, yeah,
they did.
Whether the ramifications of that are anything at all or just more of the same, we shall see. But, they launched Our Place. They launched a My Place song that a woman called Sarah wrote, which was really just My Place to Waltzing Matilda.
Good.
So once a man called Darren, and you go from there.
Yeah, okay. That sounds
really
gross.
Really bad.
Yeah. Bit of a false prophet situation there going on.
But a bit cute as well. It was so bad it was cute.
Yeah, they do sometimes cross over that threshold, yeah.
Sovereignty, and it burst out like a thoroughbred. I think she got that one in. And then,
that sounds nice.
They go to a few locations in Australia to show how far and wide it went. But no one's shared it. It's that bad.
Wow, because they love sharing.
They had a bit of a Zoom a couple of days ago where Darren and the prepper guy, Andre the prepper who was there doing workshops, they all had to sit and listen to it. And they sat there rather politely and gave a little round of applause to moved on.
Okay, well now I'm going to have to clip this in but I haven't listened to it yet. So basically, A, I'm going to make you listen to it, not you, but the listeners. And B, that means I have to listen to it. So you've done us all a disservice today. You are going straight to The Hague for that. The next thing, I guess, is this 832 muster thing?
Yeah, just out of Mount Gambier on the lakes there.
Sounds nice.
So it was kind of, competing against the Freedom Festival. So it was like
how far away from each other are they?
Apparently a couple of hours. I thought it would have been more, but apparently Wade Northhausen, he spoke in the Saturday morning at 8:32 and was at Edamogga pub to speak to the freedom fighters in the afternoon.
Oh, that's a lot. That's very capable. Well done.
He just drones on and on with the same crap. You don't even know if he stops talking when he turns the mic off. Or whether it's just the same.
They kind of like that. It's that ASMR thing where people just speak and they just sort of drone out to it and get a strange euphoric feeling just from listening to bullshit. But I'm seeing here there's an 832. Yeah?
Doing okay. He lured Barnaby out to speak at his rally in Canberra a few weeks ago, didn't he?
If it's a sitting day, then it's not that hard. But yeah. I mean, look, this is the Billboard Battalion guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like maybe he's got some money or something because he just sort of doesn't have anything else to do.
I think with the attack on renewables and the culture war that's going to emerge around that and the election, that Wade will be seen as a kind of useful tool to lure in a bit of an army by the likes of Advance and even the
Yeah, okay.
even the
He's definitely putting his hand out for money. So his Telegram channel has 514 subscribers, which is not good. But he has got his own little website and blah, blah, blah. But yes, he has, Farmer Wage put out his hand for money. And this is basically putting out his hand for money because of a bus and something due to a rally against the misinformation, disinformation bill. This was November 18th, but he doesn't seem to update this very often. I imagine he's probably more active on Facebook.
And he's just seen as a bit of a magnet for those campaigns that are ongoing around lithium mines and proposal. There's the national park proposal in Victoria, which is gaining a significant amount of rural opposition, mainly from the logging industry.
Okay. And he's got 10,000 followers on Facebook. I thought I would just generally sort of correct that. 4.4 thousand likes and 10,000 followers. So it's not completely off. But yeah, and he's got this fucking massive bus.
Yeah, it must be expensive to run.
Yeah, it would be. But,
I remember when it broke down was it last year or maybe even longer? But yeah, a couple of real farmers came out and fixed it for him. And he was pretty excited to meet some real farmers on the side of the road on the Hay Plain, I think it was.
Does he have anything to do with farming?
I can't remember what his farming credentials are, but he's not a big farmer at all. He hasn't got.
He calls himself a farmer. I don't remember anyone who's a farmer saying, I'm Farmer John.
Yeah.
It's just that rings alarm bells to me. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe the guys spent a lot of time on farms, sure. But people don't do that.
Yeah, I can't remember his background, and I should, because I first came across him years ago with the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, and he was very much involved in the more radical events around Wagga that sought to unravel that on behalf of the irrigation industry, I suppose. Yeah, so he made it to both. Carl was at the 832 muster, and Tim Dwyer doing his law.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Yes. So they're still having little powwows, still having little gatherings, cool. And they're still
they were, but more of a camp out, more of a
group, they've made friends along the way,
before
right?
Christmas, yeah.
And just hang out.
That's what
Chick
Fenton actually said. That she said, I've made some great friends doing this. I've lost some along the way, and here we are at a Mogga. Kaz turned up, so did Beck. So I don't know.
Okay.
Apparently, Kaz left early. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Are they Kaz and Beck not happy with each other?
Beck called Kaz a Khazarian
Jew, I think. Yeah, interesting thing to say.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I don't really have a problem with Khazarian Jews, but hey, we all have our conversations, right?
There was someone in Kaz's corner saying, she's not. I went to school with her. She's Christian. It just went on and on. But just a stupid, Kaz has apparently issued Beck with a cease and desist, as everyone does when they're not happy. But, then you got to...
There should be a legal basis for that. But yeah, probably more concerns notice territory. But hey, don't worry about me. I'm just a law student. So yeah. What a piece of shit. Well, look, when it comes down to that, I don't really care if they sort of bicker amongst themselves, have some sort of silly time. But I do know that there is a lure toward the dramatic, and I do hope Tinfoil Tales guys have a little bit of time to look at these very silly things. But speaking of silly things that aren't silly in the slightest, you want to move on to the fire ant situation. What the fuck is going on with fire ants? Because I've looked into it recently, but I want to get your take on the fire ants, because I've got about 6 different takes, and some of them are diametrically opposed to each other. I don't know what to think on this.
Yeah, so it's all up around the border, New South Wales, Queensland border, where, fire ants took hold around Logan initially and have spread further south, and then some, I don't know, what were they, shipments of, there was grass or turf or something. They turned up one turned up in Ballina and another around Lumbar.
Right.
And they've embarked on a program of aerial spraying, which is both poisonous and sets cookers off. So
yes, see,
that
they're the two
probably
things
leads
that
to 6 of your theories.
Well, yeah, it's really tricky. So one thing that I'm finding really difficult is that when we say fire ants, what we mean is the red imported fire ants.
Yes.
And I'm finding it very difficult to reconcile the fact that cookers are finally okay with illegal immigration, because it seems like they want these little fuckers to be spared. So look, as far as boat people go, no, but boat ants, not a problem in the slightest, because they do seem to be almost pro-fire ant.
It's kind of a rerun of their campaign, which occurred around here in the Hunter, actually, around the varroa mite. And there was a Save the Bees campaign, which and you could get right into whether the Department of Primary Industries was ever going to be successful in eradicating the mite once it was out in the wild. By destroying hives.
Mix of mitosis, I suppose.
So, and what's happening around the Gold Coast is and the hinterland is you've got planes spraying farm.
I think it's drones at this point that are spraying.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think they're pellets as well, from what I'm seeing. I have done a little bit of research into this. It's just that because I got to the point where I researched it and I was like, okay, I'm at a point where I now have to go either backwards and forget this or charge forward and really figure this fucking thing out, because it's not straightforward. I can't just pick a side and run with it. It's not as much of a simple ha-ha cookers as I thought it was going to be. For everything that I've seen, like, for example, some of these insecticides, that, of course, they've got like the whole save the bees angle, but bees aren't eating the pellets. They're often pellets that they leave near the nests to get them to eat the pellets and die and do that sort of thing.
Isn't it? Is that the one?
Yeah, fipronil is one of them. And they've got a few different ones that they're using in this sort of multifaceted approach. One of the things that is happening, for example, they are using chemicals in fairly high quantities that are incredibly toxic to aquatic life. If you sometimes get a can of insecticide spray, you'll see there is this great image. You know how they got those images, like where there'll be like exclamation mark, or there'll be some sort of like skull and crossbones. There's that one where it's like all like the dead fish in some sort of like decrepit lake. And that is basically saying it's very toxic to aquatic life, and it really is. And I checked out the pamphlets and everything of them. The poisons are really fucking bad. Now, of course, the government aren't stupid in this regard. When they're doing it near any kind of source of water, they use a different product, which isn't toxic to aquatic life. But the idea that somehow maybe rain will wash it down. Some of the cookers who were getting really pissy about this were saying that it was insane for them to be using it during rain. And like, I get that, but like, it's going to rain at some point anyway. So surely they've thought about rain. It's not like, oh, we're dropping fucking poison from a drone during rain. We thought it would never rain again. We never thought about that. There's no fucking strategy there. But like, the other thing that I found fascinating is like, there's a lot of people discussing the idea of their dogs, usually dogs, but like pets being killed.
That's what I watched. I watched a meeting on it a couple of months ago now, and there was a local vet, I think from around Currumbin, and the constituency did seem to be a lot of people who were completely part of the pet anti-vax movement, as well as anti-fire ant control.
I find anything cooked about the vet, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't either in the end. I was wondering. But yeah, that someone's dog had taken ill after a walk in the park, and it had sparked a public meeting and an outcry. Yeah,
there's a whole thing about basically, fuckity fuck, dogs are reporting sick, blah, blah, blah. My issue is that I can't trust anything they say. I'm so fucking past that point. It's ridiculous. And of course, everyone gets a real sub story on dogs, but there is a possibility that these pesticides are having some sort of unexpected impact. But I believe the whole point of these insecticides being used in this regard is that they don't have any impact on mammals.
That's right.
It just doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything to us. So I don't really get how that works. I do feel like I just don't want to say straight up they're lying about the dogs before knowing more to make sure that's not a really fucked up thing to say.
Yeah,
just
and
don't know.
I mean, it's the nature of the region to be strong campaigners on anything toxic.
Anything with a chemical name in it, basically.
And there's also the anger that erupts when some drives a truckload of the ants further south and lays them into a park. So you've got they're just on the front line of that might have been stopped with better quarantine.
I'm making a very, very basic level of inquiry here, which is that one of the Instagram posts from Save the Bees Australia has said that has been linked to over 4,000 birth defects in Brazil. Now I'm looking at a thing here, which is because of the Zika, with the mosquito-borne Zika virus, we're having issues. And apparently they use this to combat that. And they're more or less saying here that really isn't the case and that Zika is the problem. But all right, who knows? I'd probably spend more time on that to be sure. But it seems like this is the thing they do, right? This is the thing I was whinging about in the last episode as well. Brandolini's bullshit asymmetry law, which is that they can just sit there and say, oh, there were 4,000 birth defects in Brazil. Here's me, the asshole, going out and reading fucking papers to find out whether that claim is true, and then finding out it's not true, and then justifying why it's not true, and spending 3 hours doing so. Like, what the fuck are we doing? The bullshit asymmetry principle is the fucking worst. I sort of wish I was back on the other side of it, and I was just down the pub, spouting bullshit, feeling good about myself, and, getting laid every weekend at a My Place meetup. I mean, that'd be fucking great. Unfortunately, I saw through some of the bullshit, and now I'm paying the price. It's very unfortunate. I think the fire ant thing, it's got me though, because I don't love the uncertainty around using this many chemicals to try and combat the thing. But the fire ant problem is fucked in the head.
Yeah,
they are cunts.
It will change a lot of things should they become an everyday part of the Australian landscape. And I guess, for quite a few years, it was just this trying to contain them in this, I think it was maybe 20-kilometre radius in Logan. But we're past that now. There's a bloke up there called Trevor who's invented looks like a hot water spray that he drives around in a truck and sprays down their nests, and he's trying to say that's the way to go. He's also trying to promote himself.
Is that working though?
Oh, it might do if he finds a nest.
Yeah,
it's very funny to watch though. It's called
the fire ant. Quite funny.
The fire ant soup machine, he calls it.
Oh, good. Oh, look, anyone having a crack is great. I mean, the more effort, the better. But I must say, I'm here on a website called Earth Food, right? And it just says the fire ant crisis, fix it naturally better. And it's that thing where, okay, cool. So what we're doing here is that we are using these poisons, these chemicals, to try and kill these fire ants. And we now have Earth Food who have a solution. I'm going to surprise you all and say something they sell. So
yes.
Great. Their living microbes will naturally rehabilitate the soil, creating an environment where fire ants won't thrive while preserving the delicate balance of nature. Oh, isn't that nice? I just don't know if your product works, though. And I would be surprised if it did.
Trevor calls his soup a game changer, but there's only one Trevor and he only has one use.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to work.
And of course, they've tapped into the no trespass signs that Sovsits produce, and people are sticking them up on the fire ant version of them up on their gates.
Yeah, that's right. I saw they're selling those.
Yeah, making friends in the sovereign movement as they do it.
The fire ant machine, the fire ant soup machine guy, that is the guy who was mentioned in the ABC article, who has the fetching Union Jack bandana on his head and excellent facial hair. Yeah, very good. Fire ant soup machine. Good.
He's
Good.
excellent.
Yeah, he seems like a very interesting character. And you say that's my interesting friend who I don't answer when they call. Yeah, okay. I like this. Heavy-handed approaches by the National Fire and Eradication Program creates negative mental health and overall well-being outcomes. All right, thanks, Trev. That's good. I don't know what that's based on. Anyway, appreciate your input. So,
But yeah,
as far as
again,
finance go,
it's
don't.
Cookers diluting what may be genuine concerns and just being
Yeah.
dismissed as cookers because that's what you do.
Say dumb shit.
Yeah.
They need to stop making actual things farcical so we can have a good faith society that operates properly.
And you
Basically.
can discuss issues with your opponents rather than have people, from Gold Coast My Place or whatever walk in and instantly be banned from the building because the people they're talking to are terrified. And
it checks out.
That's what happens. And it's, that little bit part of cookers that are right is always ruined by their behaviour, tactics, and whatever their ulterior motives are.
The kernel of truth. The ulterior motives, definitely. The behaviour, fucking absolutely. Just torture. So there is an election coming up. Are we going to see a standing of a whole bunch of, grandstanding fucking cooker candidates who are just there to fluff their ego and their, cut chase? Is that going to happen? I think it's going to happen.
Yes, it's going to happen. It won't be brilliantly coordinated, but, at the one end, on the fringes of conservatism, you'll have whatever Advance and Joel Jamal and the One Nations and libertarians of this world can concoct, and then then there's an even weirder
actual
end.
Parties though.
Yeah, where
I'm expecting more of like your weird Morgan Jonas types.
They'll appear as independents, I'm sure. Definitely got a few planning on running
because it makes them seem legit.
Yeah, and there's a few planning on running around the Hunter and Central Coast. There's a few people scrambling to get there's 1,650 people now you need to form a party.
Oh, really? For the signatures?
Yeah,
okay. So that's not going to happen.
No, that's certainly upset the apple cart there. But, it's certainly one Advance is going to be fighting around. Well, they've said it out and out. They want to take out the Greens vote, and don't know where they want to send that, but if not to themselves. But
I just don't think that anything that Advance says to Greens voters, say, where's that vote going to go? Because it's not like first past post or voluntary, but also like which Greens voters are listening to your shit.
No, that's right.
Like, unless they get real fucking subversive and start putting bots on Twitter. But then again, same thing applies. Like, if you're voting Greens, you've probably got a pretty good idea. You're probably a high information voter, for better or worse. There are some people who are just young and vote Green because they think they're meant to. But fuck, it's a slim amount of people. It's not something you would dedicate resources to. But then again, these people love losing elections. So, maybe they will. These are the same people who did Captain Get Up to try and thwart Zali Steggall, which had a fucking idiot in a superhero costume humping a billboard with Zali Steggall's face on it. Oh, that's how we win elections, isn't it? Yeah, about that. So, I don't know. Like, Advance have come a long way since then, but I still think there is the potential for them to just be a really cringy outfit of edgelord fuckheads.
Yeah, actually, the Advance spokesperson, Sandra Burke, I think she lives over on the mid-north coast, sort of at Tea Gardens. And I've noticed, I don't know how far it extends out of New South Wales, but she actually posts in community groups. She tried doing it here the other day, and she was called out instantly as a non-local and also the spokesperson for Advance and to piss off. But, it's interesting to see. What was the analysis after the last one? That the young voters just aren't enough to vote in the Libs in the numbers they need
not
in
a
the
great
places
target
they
demographic.
live. Yeah, but at the same time, the sense that elbows on the nose is definitely there.
Yeah.
And the role that the far right plays in what's to come it'll be interesting to see they certainly got active around the Voice to a point where, they coordinated quite well with the LNP in some places.
Yeah, okay.
My favourite was Jacob Bood, who claimed to have paid from Did You Know, who paid for the Bosey election campaign in New South Wales.
That's right.
There was a really,
didn't get paid back.
There was this really funny moment during the Voice campaign where he wanted to put out one of his Voice flyers, one of his flyers on the Voice, and then he couldn't get it authorised, and then he had a look at the Liberal one and said, "Oh, that's good enough for us," and handed that one out.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah, so there was
well
a bit
done.
there was a bit of definitely collusion between the LNP and sort of Newcastle, My Place, and the Awakened community, and with One Nation actually acting as a bit of a go-between.
Yeah, okay.
So, whether that emerges around the federal election, a greater or lesser level, will be interesting to see.
I'm guessing basically what we're going to see is a on-the-nose Labor government who turn up knowing that they can basically not lose. The Teals keep almost all their seats, maybe gain, maybe not. Maybe one or two, I don't know, but I can't imagine Scamps or Stegel or any of those sort of guys, Monique Ryan, they're all, pretty well established and in there, as they are, all in safe Liberal seats. The Liberals need to pull off a miracle to get into power. There will probably be a hung parliament. I think Labor's going to lose some seats to the Greens, and I'm totally at peace with that. And I think they need to. I think we need a fucking hung parliament. I think that Liberals will get a few seats, but just not enough. Not enough to get a majority. No way. But I think Labor will lose enough seats between the Liberals and the Greens to really force their hand into being less pointless, which I look forward to. Because, I do get that politics isn't easy and blah, blah, blah. But if you look at another Labor Prime Minister in a minority government, Julia Gillard, she had she had on record the most productive government in history, I believe. Most legislation passed. But that was just like a talented government that knew what to do. But maybe some of especially on the Labor left, some of them probably want to be hamstrung by the Greens. Some of them probably want to be in a situation where they have to pander to these things because they probably hate the fact they have to keep on doing all these fucking neoliberal shit cunt things to basically, appease the caucus. So I've got a very optimistic future where basically a hung parliament happens and the Greens give passage to Labor based on a few concessions, which I think most will be vibes-based, but maybe some housing tweaks. And good things will come from it. Like, that's good. Like, let's go further to the left. Yes, okay, I was the guy that thought Harris was going to win to the tune of $8,000, and I can't be trusted at all. The Labor is behind on the betting markets. They are currently $2.20, whereas the coalition $1.80. Every fucking ounce of me wants to put $8,000 on Labor right now. Every fucking ounce. And I'm not a gambling guy. I just think it's a no-brainer. But I thought Harris was a no-brainer. I thought she was going to win Florida, and I thought she was going to piss it in by about mid-afternoon. So I am once bitten, twice shy. And also a whole bunch of my friends the other week at my birthday party gave me a couple of grand and said, don't do it again, but here's a bailout. And this very much is in sync with my general philosophy on capitalism, which is you should always privatize the wins and socialize the losses. This is the first mantra. We learned this all in 2008, and we should all live by that religiously. I fucking think Labor's going to win, and at $2.20, oh, bro. But I tell you what, if I listen back on this in a year with Peter Dutton as prime fucking minister, I'll be glad I fucking didn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. But I do think that as far as like the general sort of cooker nonsense that we should be expecting it's basically just going to be them just doing whatever they can to get attention. And that's that. It's just that.
Yeah, I think it'll be around.
Okay, who cares?
It'll be around the wind farms and the culture war that Dutton will no doubt ignite over renewables and
As much
the
as
nuclear
possible.
push that
Yeah,
they're making.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah, in certain places.
Yeah, it just doesn't surprise me at all. But at the same time, I just don't know if the culture war thing's going to work. But then again, I thought Americans knew what a tariff was. So don't ask me. I'm not a fucking crystal ball. If anything, I am a crystal ball full of shards of shit. So
Well, there's always some
there's
issue that just comes up that they've had marked down for months. No one ever saw.
Yeah, okay. The sort of planned
that
October
ignites
surprise
it all,
type thing.
and then it just, what was it? The franking credits. That sort of just something
That's once
something
again
you have to look up when they say it, and then everyone's talking.
Yeah. But okay, so to give it a bit of an off-topic thing here, because we are trying to stick to cookers, but if you look at the US, the idea of a tariff isn't fucking rocket science. I don't hate Australia for not understanding a franking credit and thinking it was coming for their superannuation or some shit. I get that is very it's not stupid, it's just low information voter stuff. I get that, that's fine. Americans who don't know what a tariff is, and when they found out later, oh shit, this is actually going to make things more expensive for a while. The richest man in the world is saying we're going to have some hardship and he doesn't seem sad about it. You fucking idiots. It's a tariff. Guys, this is so basic. This is so not a thing. Just no. Whereas with franking credits, totally fair enough. If you've got to do backflips to understand how that works on some sort of taxation level, and it scares you because one side is saying they're taking your investments and the other side is saying, don't worry, it won't affect you. I get it. So yeah, I don't know if there's going to be something like that this time. I don't think Dutton is electable. I don't think Cookers are electable. But I must say, I would have said the exact same thing about councils. And now we look at councils all across New South Wales and Victoria, and there's fucking cookers everywhere.
It's just that little creep that
it's low information voters as well.
Yeah,
they just easily seduced. You sent me a link to this guy. I think he had a whole thing about cyclists or something like that. I remember it was ages ago. It was a council candidate, and I was like, I'd fucking vote for this guy. This is sweet. He's my place. I'm like, is he? Because it's not up front. They don't wear it on their sleeve. And then when they get in, they're like, oh, we're going to do a fucking motion about mRNA. And you're like, oh, God, what did I vote for?
Yeah.
There's very much sleeper cell beast bullshit here. So as far as it all goes, we've got an election coming up, fine. It's coming to Christmas, so everyone's going to basically either hang out with their families or lament the fact they don't talk to them anymore. And we are then really looking at what the state of the freedom movement is going forward. What's going on? Bozy, is he still active? I mean, Guru's going to die soon. Look at that thing on his fucking lip.
Just on a local level, it's really weird, but my place is sharing Bozy's stuff more than ever in its...
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy because...
Interesting.
No one seems to be bothered by the drama that happened around Woi Woi, except the people in Woi Woi and their various loyalties. But, I mean, it's funny. You notice, I mean, there's all the factions of, whether it's My Place or One Nation or Bozy's lot but then there's always a cooker group, a social page with the odd event, lunches or picnics or whatever associated with it, where they're all just all in there together. And it's the place they can go without Bozy or Bergworth telling them they're betraying the organisation by talking to the other one.
Yeah, okay.
So, it's interesting. But Bozy's just getting shared constantly by Newcastle.
Wow.
Newcastle and Lake Macquarie, My Place, just merged, and the news social have emerged as that merger happened. Just Bozy's back there. I don't think he'd be welcome to speak any time, but he's not doing that anyway. He's just talking,
Well, he's very quiet now. It seems like he's basically, unless you're going to pay for his bus fare and give him a sandwich in a Glad wrap bag, he can't turn up.
And the green room.
He's got no fucking money.
It'd be interesting to see whether he has an election shot or something like that. That would be quite amusing.
Yes, that would. But I think is Australia One still existing anymore?
Well, the green room and the weekly, and then there's who is it? The national coordinator Sarah Yule up in Darwin, loyally plugging on.
Yeah, okay.
And then
Yeah.
they talk to America, and there's all the loyalists, but the movement that existed sort of much around the Central Coast has just sort of Franco's come into his own as a gate yeller, and
We like that.
Rosemary
Someone's got to do it, right?
Marshall sort of sycophant, but yeah, they're all still there.
They'll never leave.
A bit disillusioned by the division and the unity. They're always seeking unity. But Michael Gray Griffiths wrote an essay this weekend about how unity's not that important.
An essay, huh?
Well, it was a Facebook
Cool.
post, but it was essay length.
Jesus Christ. I mean, look.
They're good at fighting each other and getting over it.
Well, okay, the getting over it thing I'm surprised by, because I know they're very good at fighting each other. I know, division defines this movement, and that's of course the same thing we're going to see. Everyone's hoping we'll see in the Trump administration. All these narcissistic fuckbags who just butt up against each other and absolutely refuse to do the smart thing, which is to swallow their pride and team up. Nah, it's all about them, and that's it. That is, not how this works.
Yeah. But, it is interesting. I think the legacy of them is they have made a push into the suburbs, and, through gaining councillors or just, weird niches in little groups, they probably have established themselves to a point that, a mass movement did go to Canberra and came back and kept it going locally. And that does.
You would have met some cool friends at the Canberra place.
Yeah.
It would have been great fun. So, yeah, I mean, it is tricky. As we've said through this entire episode, it is the friends you made along the way. And, it's a bit fucking like that. This is this thing of this pandemic hangover. People organise politically for the first time in their lives, but they also managed to adopt some really fucked up beliefs around social issues that made all of their friends and family want nothing to do with them. And now they're all mates. Maybe they're in relationships. Maybe they've made babies. And at the end of the day, it's just a weird, sad mix of people who have either sacrificed a lot or nothing, but just want to hang out, maybe have a few drinks and get laid. I mean, fine.
I think that might be the influence, the base core of all movements.
Yeah, I mean, you would know that more than me,
I reckon.
for sure. I went to Sydney University and I learned how much I wanted nothing to do with activism.
Yeah.
Because I hung out with activists and it sucked. Man, the contest of personalities was just not for me. I can't be bothered, man.
It's brutal.
I don't care.
It's a brutal space.
And pointlessly brutal. You're all meant to be raging against the machine, not each other, you fucking idiots. Jesus Christ. But yeah, it's a very strange thing. I must say, as far as a amusing thing to watch goes, fair enough. I vaguely keep in contact with it in that regard. As a political force, it just seems what they've done is, instead of being integrated into the politics outside of the councils, which is a whole other story, and they'd be integrated as fuck, but they have managed to shift over to window, but never quite get to that sort of quota to get past, except, like I say, with councils. Man, Cooker councils, we haven't really looked at that here enough. And one thing that I will say about the Tinfoil Tales girls, their episodes are great. Their content is fantastic. They're so on the ball. They should be employed. They should be employed by the government, basically, to track this fucking movement.
It needs tracking.
But it does need tracking, and they're doing such a great job of it, but it's so much harder to track it and then make fucking content about it.
That's right. And you can often spend hours looking at little organisations, and hours or days even, and still not knowing whether this one is going to be the one that turns out to be relevant or a complete waste of time.
I can't do any of that. I really can't. I just can't do it. I used to find it more interesting.
And I mean, I know my own region really well, and others pretty well, but then there's others that you look at, and you're just looking at these little groups, and they'll post 99 pictures of carrots, and then suddenly there'll be a Blair Cottrell or Tom Sewell post in between the pictures of their veggies. And I can think of a particular group sort of around the Upper Hunter that does that.
Jesus. That's also that way of like, sort of Trojan horse negative content, make it seem so normalized by the fact that, well, everything else is just about gardening. So what's so bad about some white supremacy?
Yeah, and certainly the move around the the wellness sector is fairly well documented about its move to the right, and particularly, the vaccines and COVID just put that on steroids. But the organic sector went with it to be a great deep dive into that by somebody.
I mean, they're doing it now with the Bovaer thing. I mean, they're showing their colours on that. But I also think that you can easily excuse that by the fact that it's a freebie. There's no carbon credit scheme. There's no enforcement of methane emissions on cattle. Whereas when you look at farmers in places like the UK and the EU where they're doing the Isle of Foods trial, the extra cost of the Bovaer feed will be offset, if not more profitable, by the fact they're going to get carbon credits for it. So Norco can sit there and say, oh, we're not using fucking Bovaer. Yeah, golf clap. It would cost you money, and unless you were getting a positive fucking PR back, there's no return on investment. So, yeah, of course you're not using it. You have no incentive. But just wait until fucking Klaus Schwab and his bug-eating army come and enforce carbon credits on you, and you are going to throw fucking Bovaer into your feed, and you are going to be super quiet about it because it's going to make you an extra $15 per cow unit or some shit, and you'll all be fucking excited about it. It's classic capitalism.
Yeah.
And all these, the thing that Coles is doing is they're selling a value add item, which is that you can go to Coles and you can buy the Coles Finest carbon neutral range, which is a value add product that makes sure that your beef is carbon neutral. No one ever buys this outside of a select few people who are very ethically minded and very fucking wealthy. And I applaud them entirely. It's great. But at the end of the day, that's not the Isle of Foods thing. The Isle of Foods thing is that there is a progressive, established, if not creeping, system of carbon taxes and carbon credits and all that shit going on. And they are doing what they're meant to, which is mitigate their carbon impacts by using a product that will give them a return on investment. That doesn't happen here. So all these fucking farms who think they're so special for not using Bovaer, do you have no incentive to? I'm not impressed. You're doing nothing about nothing. Great. But it won't last forever. But I tell you what, if that has to go through legislation and goes through politically, the amount of kickback on the idea of a carbon tax that involves cattle and dairy, oh man, we are going to hear nothing more than the price of cheese for fucking ever. But, if they've got things like Bovaer and ruminate and other things that reduce the emissions, then maybe it won't be such a problem.
No.
I mean, anyway. Yeah, look, that is a bit of a tangent, but when it comes down to it, it seems like, as we said for many, many years, the freedom movement is going to be a sad cluster of weird, maladjusted, angry fucks who've never quite got past the pandemic, lost a lot and never rebuilt, or just made a whole bunch of friends and maybe getting laid.
It's a gang.
Fair enough. Yeah. But it is. But there's still no coherent point. They're still grasping on vaccines, which is quite pathetic. It's just a sort of sad, weird, maladjusted bunch of dead shits. There's no...
And all the power
evolution.
In Australia's in the middle. You got to win the middle to...
Yeah. Politically, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just... Someone always says something disgusting and lets off...
They can't help themselves.
Stink in the room.
That being said, I mean, Trump, who is a piece of shit and probably a rapist, just got elected in the US. Yeah. So they're probably going to feel pretty galvanized as far as that goes. And I don't blame them.
Yeah, they thrive off chaos and making rudeness acceptable again.
Yeah. Well, as we wrap this up, all I can say is that my next 20 minutes is going to be finding this fucked up My Play song, ripping it off Facebook and putting it into this episode. And for that, I have nothing but resentment for you. Otherwise, love your work and thanks for stopping by to share your wisdom, because just like the My Place girls, I know you've got nuggets of wisdom in there because you track this stuff so carefully and so finely. And I just want to basically pull you in here and, for lack of a better term, justify my negligence of not tracking this myself. Because A, I don't have time, and B, is it my ADHD or are they just fucking boring? I just can't do it.
They can be, but they're boring. They're very boring.
So boring. So boring.
And I try and maintain interest in where they making inroads that...
You got to do a 5D chess thing, make it interesting.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just...
The music used to be great. I used to love finding a new song that...
New cooker band?
Yeah, Michael Gray Griffith's culture thing just ruined that because they all just went to one place. And
that's a shame.
And they're just boring. And the music, you should do a music episode, I reckon.
Yeah, okay. I think that's more of a tinfoil tales thing, but I tell you what, I wouldn't rule it out because they just know so much more than I do with this. I must say, like, I find the fringe and the right interesting. It gets that point where you sort of like, you go, oh, this is just gross. But I do love getting a rundown. Whenever I get a tinfoil tales episode in my feed, I just like, I'm ecstatic. I save them. For a special occasion. Like, it's great. So yeah, I do still enjoy the sort of reality TV-esque nightmare that is the freedom movement, but I welcome it. I was hoping that it was going to die with a Harris administration. It would just be so boring for them. They just get over it. But I guess now we've got Kash Patel and a whole new generation of weird Jody Lowe motherfuckers.
Yeah, no, they're entrenched to it.
It's on the cards. Yeah, gross.
Cool.
Oh well, look, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate your work. And if you have any thoughts over the next little while that you just want to throw out into the ether, please let me know because I know our audience wants to hear them.
Yeah, I reckon a lot will happen when everyone gets back after Christmas. There's an election on and people will start aligning themselves and printing pamphlets.
And getting weird.
They'll get weird.
Printing pamphlets. That should not be exciting, but it does. It sounds very interesting. All right, well,
excellent.
We'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Dave.
No worries, Joel.
And we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Bye.
Once a guy named Darren had an idea brewing to gather the people wanting sovereignty. He spoke about a plan to break away from the tyranny. He said, come along to my place and let's be free. He shared his thoughts with the crowd and asked for all to volunteer. Up jumped the people, 1, 2, 3. What first began in Frankston took off like a thoroughbred and grew organically across this great country. My place Australia, my place Australia. You come to my place Australia and see that the folks come together to build a better future. We are the My Place community. We hit the ground and got to work with passion and the skills we had to build something new for humanity. Connection, compassion, a network of like-minded, a movement that would be revolutionary. From Launceston to Lismore, Blackwood down to Bendigo, one common goal and opportunity. From Townsville to Tamworth, Kilmore to the Kimberley, putting unity back into community. My place Australia, my place Australia. You come to my place Australia and see that the folks come together to build a better future. We are the My Place community. My place Australia, my place Australia. You come to my place Australia and see that the folks come together to build a better future. We are the My Place community. We are the My Place community.
I don't think I ever want to talk to any of those people.
Fuck me, you guys are bastards.